The first week. It's all in the numbers. That's how you understand anything of real value in this world. At this point, we don't need the baby monitor anymore. But even after all this time, I still need the static to fall asleep. It was a while ago when the baby started sleeping through the night, and I needed it through that transition. The monitor has one of those screens too that turns on if there's any movement in the room. It doesn't really turn on anymore, but sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and press the on button, just to look, just to remind myself. A healthy male in his prime will produce anywhere from around 30 million to an excess of 1 billion sperm during an ejaculation. Of that group, only so many make it to the fallopian tubes. Fewer than 20 sperm ever reach the egg. Sometimes, none make it. I had met my wife in high school, but we didn't date until after college. She went her way, I went mine, and for some reason both of us backwood kids ended up in Panama City at the same beach during spring break. It was a kind of scenario we both completely hid from our parents. But that was the beginning. The first kiss escalated into a lot of other firsts that we just sort of blew right through that week. We had come so far since then. Getting married, the honeymoon in Florida. We decided to put our careers on hold and spend a few years together. It was a good call, but that was before we started doing the math for everything, realizing that we'd be in our 50s once the kids left the house. And that was if we had the first kid 9 months after we first started trying. When it comes to trying to get pregnant, ovulation is at the center of everything. Ovulation is only a little window. Certain religions even track cycles so they can have unprotected sex around the ovulation cycle to prevent pregnancy. Even if a couple has unprotected sex and is trying to conceive, the odds are only stacked so much in their favor. A couple trying to get pregnant can still find themselves without a child after a year. Something like 10 to 15% will take longer than a year to get pregnant. You know, the real irony of having children with my wife was that we were actually both in the same health class together. Mr. Schuler was this old conservative values man from the middle of the century. He didn't teach us much, but he did manage to tell us interesting anecdotal tales that had nothing to do with sex or reproduction. He never did tell us the odds of anything. None of the real numbers. Like the odds for miscarriages. Most people don't ever look these up, so they don't realize that a spontaneous abortion can take place at any point during the first 20 weeks, but most likely just the first 13. And the numbers get smudged on this one. But the odds of a miscarriage are around 1 in 5. Some experts believe the odds are 3 out of 5. If it happens early enough, an uneducated mother-to-be will think it was just a late period. When we finally decided to have children, it took us 2 years to get pregnant. And not just 2 years of trying to not try. We were actively trying. 2 years of almost treating it like our part-time job. It took a bit of the fun out of it, actually. But we knew we both wanted it. We were more than ready for that next phase of our lives. When it finally happened, we were so happy. My wife was the one who told me we had to wait a few weeks. She told me how common miscarriages were, and that's what got me started on the numbers, on knowing the odds. Most mothers don't know to wait. They take the pregnancy test and let everyone know that they got that pink circle or the triangle or the double lines. Then the doctor visits the place and the baby's gone. They never did the research to find out how frequent it all is, how often things don't work out. And the reasons are countless. Sometimes the body just rejects the baby. Other times the mother smoked or drank too much caffeine or some other drug. Or maybe the mother is over 45 years old, in which case their odds jump to a 50-50 chance of keeping the baby to term. Sometimes it just happens. No one's to blame, and something just doesn't line up. We also went through a few false alarms in those 2 years. We made it pretty far at one point. We were a week away from telling our friends and family when my wife had another period. It was a rough point in our life together, but we kept trying. We knew it would happen eventually. Once your child's born, there's 1 in 1,500 chance that it will pass away from SIDS. Stands for Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. They just fall asleep one day and never wake up again. No one has completely figured out why. If the mother is seriously ill, the odds in that child will go up that it will have this difficulty. Any number of external factors limit the chances for the baby: smoking, drinking, eating wrong, drugs, even getting the flu. In America, the child mortality rate of children that don't make it past their 5th birthday is around 5 for every 1,000. In some countries, it's above 100 for every 1,000. America's current population is around 310 million. When we finally were able to tell our friends and family, I was so happy. We were making it. When we found out it would be a boy, happiness grew into pride. We took classes. Pride turned into paranoia. We bought padding for everything, stocked up on Band-Aids and medicines, and bought enough diapers to last us a year. All those odds, all those numbers stacked against all of us. And it has even gotten better over the years. That our species has survived this long is always a wonder to me when I sit down and consider it all. I guess you could say I was a nervous father. During our pregnancy, every day felt like a miracle. The idea that life was being molded in there, that our bits of protoplasm were forming into something that would later shape in other ways, and which would shape us, was the most amazing feeling I'd ever experienced. Through the screaming and the drugs and the sleepless nights, there he was, the more perfect version of ourselves, still pure from his lack of experience with the world, not yet touched by the harshness. We did our best to be informed. It was pretty hard stepping up to the plate with that. Cynthia was too drugged up to say yes or no to things, so there I was, remembering the classes and remembering what to say no to, what to say yes to. They try to sell you anything in that moment. Most of them just want to get off shift early. You can't blame them too much, I guess. A job's a job. And I have no reason to be bitter about our experience at the hospital, but there were a few moments where I thought they were trying to get over on us. I just had to keep reminding myself about everything. You can learn a lot from history. I mean, up until the 1950s, doctors were still telling women to smoke while they were pregnant, and they took x-rays of the babies. Rhythms are quickly established during the first few days. Sleep when the baby sleeps. Anyone who doesn't do that deserves to be tired. Babies are like cats with regards to the number of hours that they sleep. Once the newborn wakes up, you just have to go through the motions. Change, feed, burp, rock, sleep. But then, last night happened. I had the monitor on and I fell asleep to the static, low hum with the volume set at 40%, just in case. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the baby started screaming hard. It was the loudest, most terrible scream I'd ever heard him put forth. There's something inside of you when you become a parent, something inside that doesn't make those screams annoying. Instead, when it's your baby, you feel like the screams are like blows to the gut. I would do anything to soothe my little guy, anything to make him feel better. I would do anything to hold him, to give him that comfort, to hold him again. It was all in the numbers somewhere. That's how it always was, and that's how it always is. Anything of real value has to be measured. And life is the most valuable of all things. He screamed for 30 minutes over the monitor. The motion sensor even came on. He was so active. My wife and I just laid there. The baby passed away 2 weeks ago. SIDS.